Afterbirth Plus is coming soon and you want to make mods for it, but your pillow shading ass isn't good at making sprites. But don't worry, your Serbian friend is here to help. Follow this video and you will be decently good at making sprites for The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and no other game. If you're gonna make sprites for the game, then goddamn look at the sprites from the game itself. You must examine them, you must see how they are how they generally look. You must examine them. How's the style like, and what are the rules you have to obey to make your own? But remember, you gotta keep balance. The sprites shouldn't have too much quality or too little. I'd suggest sticking to looking at the Rebirth sprites, cause most of them are good. There's more not great ones in Afterbirth, so try to avoid those. But looking at the sprites in general should be good enough for you to get the idea of what you're supposed to do. Speaking of Afterbirth, if you wish to recolor a sprite sheet and hopefully build off that, and here's a trick you can use. Go to MS Paint, get the bucket tool, of course turn off the smoothing thing, click the global option over there, and boom, every single thing in that color will be changed in the whole picture. Outlines are important. Without good outlines, the rest falls apart. So here's what I do. I draw what I wish to draw on a large scale with the pencil tool or binary tool, basically the brush tool but without the anti-aliasing. Then when I make that look decently like Ed's art style, I shrink it down to the size of the item, enemy, trinket, portrait, whatever, and I make the outlines out of that and let those lines guide me. And I just basically trace over that. You don't gotta obey the original shrunken version to the T, but you gotta use judgment to see if it looks good or not. For that, you gotta zoom out to 100% of the image's size. And if it looks alright from that distance, it should be good. And get used to doing that, cause you're gonna be doing a lot of it. And of course, we cannot forget about the double outlines. Pretty simple, but it's important. Now, if you want to do boss portraits, those mostly have double thick lines, but triple thick outlines. That should be it, though. Right, okay, look. If you're starting off with the sprite making thing, don't reinvent the wheel. You gotta be consistent with the rest of the game's art, alright? So the best thing you can do is sample the colors from other sprites that you want to use. This is also handy for shading as well, so you don't have the different shades have too much or too little contrast. And speaking of which...
Where's the shading?
Shading is a tricky motherfucker. Not even the original developers can get it right every time. So don't be discouraged if you don't nail it the first couple of times. But let's get this out of the way. This is pillow shading. Don't do that. There is such a thing as lighting, and a grand majority of sprites in Isaac have the light source be on the top left, as you can see by Isaac's reflection in his eyes. So here's some rules, right? Most sprites have either no shading, one shade, two shades, or three and more. No shades are reserved for items that are symbols and don't really need shading. One shade is used in small spaces. These are most common in items and not many other places. Two shades are the most common in enemies and items and is the most common type. Now with three shades and beyond is for boss sprites and especially big portraits. Now the best way to start off is to draw the outline, so to speak, of the shade. Once you got that down, then you color in the shaded area. Repeat this for however many shades you have. The more shades you do this with, the thinner the lines get. Now again, light in Isaac comes from the top left. That means the place that has the most shading and is the darkest is the bottom right. Now a small detail that is kind of important but kind of tricky to explain, in most corners of the lines should be a 1 pixel color of the darker shade of that color. Okay, that was confusing. Just look at this picture and basically you'll get the idea. This of course doesn't apply to every single corner of the lines, but I don't quite know myself when it doesn't apply. I just kind of do it. Look, just don't pillow shade and eventually you'll get the hang of it, alright? Animation is kinda a thing you gotta do if you wanna animate. This is no problem though. All you gotta do is make one frame in the large scale sketch, copy the first frame, make it transparent, and use it as a reference of the previous frame to make the next frame on. You can also use this for in-betweening and all that jazz. Once you draw the frames in large scale, just shrink them down in sprite size, and that's it. Just do what we did earlier. But another thing you can do is edit the sprite into looking like the next frame, though this is more of a blind way of animating, if that makes any sense. Which one you use is situational. Okay, listen, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I got this far by practicing a lot and having Asians yell at me. What I just told you are vague instructions at best. It's cliche, but the only way your art's gonna get better is if you do it a lot and have people tell you it sucks. I'm not even that good at making pixel art, even for this game, which is actually relatively simple. This guide is just so people who watch it don't suck anymore at it. But that's all the wisdom you'll get from me on this. So in conclusion, why are there so many babies in this game that don't have double outline?